I'd like to take a moment to thank New TV for filming today's program, so people will be able to watch it after the fact as well. So in our program tonight, we will hear from local individuals and organizations about the work that they are doing to fight and mitigate the effects of climate change. We'll hear from Caroline Weiss, Climate Action Coordinator for the City of Newton, about the updated Newton Climate Action Plan. Then Rachel Boyce of CREW will moderate a panel discussion featuring Alan Gordon of Green Newton and the Sustainable Materials Management Commission, Peter Barrer of Newton Conservators and 350 Mass Newton Node, Max Rome, Senior Stormwater Program Manager for the Charles River Watershed Association, and Kathy Pillsbury of Newton for Everyone. So this structured portion of our program tonight is going to go until about 8 o'clock. But we invite you to stay after to connect, to learn more, to talk about how to get involved. So I want to take a moment and just thank everyone who was part of planning today's program, all of our speakers and panelists, and especially Ellie Goldberg, who has championed this event from the start and who's just put so much work into making it happen. Over to Ellie to welcome everyone and to introduce our event.
Thank you, Lily. Thanks everyone for coming tonight. I'm really excited to see you here, and I'm really happy to welcome our city councilors. I saw Allison Leary, Tariq Lucas, who else is here? Maria Greenberg. I see candidate Sean Roach and State Representative Greg Schwartz. Is there anybody else here that I can see? So welcome. I'm really, really pleased that you're here. The concept for tonight's program, focusing on local impacts and local action, was inspired by Peter Barrer's 2024 Newton Conservators article. He described how new weather patterns are showing up as heat waves, as drought, and especially the downpours that overwhelm our drainage system. Flooding and polluting our basements, our roads, our parking lots, and even our community farm. The extreme weather is driving the loss of biodiversity and the mismatches between our insect populations and the bird migration. And this year, we've seen more alerts for vector-borne disease and even algae at Crystal Lake. Indeed, a recent insurance industry report predicted that the Northeast will suffer the greatest changes in average annual losses, with implications for our insurability, the affordability of premiums and mortgages, and property value. Many of us here today wear multiple hats, both as professionals and as volunteers. We spend countless hours on boards, commissions, and committees, all working to achieve the resilience that we need to protect our health and quality of life. We partner with the city to promote home energy assessments, emissions reductions and decarbonization, neighborhood electrification and gas pipeline retirement, green building standards and diverse housing options, pollution and waste reduction, multimodal transportation, social and environmental justice, and the conservation of natural resources, trees, and open space. I'm here because Rachel Carson taught me that our health is intimately dependent on the quality of our environment. And her legacy is a call to action for public policies to protect the biodiversity and the ecosystems that are our life support system. So today I hope our program will strengthen our personal and community ties as we connect with each other, learn about our new climate action plan, and the opportunities to engage with it. And I'm grateful to Rachel Boyce, Climate Justice and Resilience Manager from CREW, Communities Responding to Extreme Weather, for agreeing to be the panel moderator and our panel members today. So I'll turn it over to Caroline Weiss, who will talk about our climate action plan.
Hi everyone, and thank you Ellie for putting this program together and Lily for all of your help. I'm Caroline Weiss, Climate Action Coordinator for the City of Newton, and I'm excited to be here tonight to talk to you all a little bit about our draft updated Climate Action Plan. So for a little bit of context, the city's first Climate Action Plan was released in 2019 and covered the years of 2020 to 2025. We're due for an update to cover the next 5 years of climate action here in Newton. This most recent plan currently in draft format, differs from the first in terms of its organization, structure, and length. We're aiming for a much more concise plan, currently around 30 pages, focusing on high-impact actions the city can take. Currently, we're working on incorporating internal feedback, and we'll be then ready for more extensive stakeholder feedback and engagement, as well as public comment. So I wanted to start with just a timeline highlighting our past progress in terms of climate action here in Newton since the first climate action plan. I'll let you read through all of them and happy to answer questions later while just highlighting a few of these achievements. In 2010, the city was designated as a green community, providing access to state funding for projects such as the heat pump chiller in the Sperry Library, making it fully electric. In 2018, the Climate Change Vulnerability Assessment was published, doing just what it sounds like, identifying our climate vulnerabilities and setting out strategies to mitigate them. In 2019, the first City Climate Action Plan was published on a 5-year timescale, as well as the Citizens Climate Action Plan was completed, laying out a 30-year vision for climate neutrality in Newton. In 2024, the electrification ordinance was adopted, notably making all new construction and major renovations all electric in Newton. We're one of 10 communities with such an ordinance. And most recently, the Building Emissions Reduction and Disclosure Ordinance was signed into law, making all large buildings in Newton report over 20,000 square feet, report and reduce their energy use over time. So while we celebrate our progress, we all know there's still much more action that needs to happen to accelerate our climate progress and reach carbon neutrality by 2050. Thus, the updated plan covering the next 5 years lays out a roadmap for 2026 to 2030, incorporates resilience this time around, so weaving in some of those strategies outlined in the vulnerability assessment of 2018. Importantly, it connects and links to other city sustainability plans that cover similar topics, such as the open space and recreation plan or the hazard mitigation plan. And as I mentioned, it's meant to be a shorter plan, really focused on the high priority actions we can take. I wanted to show this slide to highlight the difference I just kind of laid out between resilience and mitigation. On the adaptation side, the plan lays out ways that we can prepare for and adjust to the effects of climate change through actions like flood protection and emergency management. Whereas on the mitigation side, goals are focused around ways that we can reduce the effects of climate change through lessening greenhouse gas emissions, for example, through local renewable energy generation and building efficiency. This flowchart kind of outlines the update process so far. Starting back in March and April, we had conversations with several key stakeholders, both in the city and outside, learning about their goals for the next couple of years and priorities. We assessed our progress, identified new and ongoing climate initiatives, drafted the outline in our plan. Now it's being circulated to leadership and other city departments to hear their feedback and to get their input on wording and goals. After that process is completed, the draft will be ready for public review and stakeholder engagement. Hopefully that's within the next few weeks for all of your and our wider community's buy-in on climate goals. We will incorporate our feedback, all the while engaging with a consultant who's helping with graphic design and the development of a public dashboard that will track our progress. The plan should be published in December of this year, after which it's time to get to work. So next I'd like to provide an overview of what the chapters are in this draft, as well as just some of the broad concepts that are related to the goals in the plan. So in the introduction to the plan, we set the stage. You all are here because you know why we need accelerated climate action in Newton, including the effects we're seeing every day of extreme heat, extreme storms, and flooding. In light of that, the city reaffirms its commitment to carbon neutrality by 2050, goes through our progress, as I did before with the timeline, and identifies opportunities for municipal influence, such as Newton's ordinances, advocacy, and educational efforts. We reference the Energy Commission's 2019 greenhouse gas inventory, as well as connect to related city plans. All right, so in the energy and buildings chapter, lots to cover. Our goals are centered around electrification and energy efficiency through retrofitting city buildings, working with our utility partners on an effort to electrify through integrated energy planning, education supporting residents in decarbonization, notably through the Community First partnership and increasing participation to mass save, We're working to facilitate and encourage additional on-site renewables in the city through our municipal solar projects, of which there are currently 19, with more planned and referenced in the plan, and through our municipal aggregation program, Newton Power Choice. We're also working in the plan to implement ordinances and building codes referenced below, as well as reduce city electricity use during peak demand and encourage residents to do the same. Our transportation and mobility chapter is focused on ways to reduce car dependency and vehicle miles traveled, importantly through prioritizing infrastructure for accessible, sustainable transportation, as you can see in the picture and may have seen in real life, the Washington Street pilot. We're working in the plan to have goals around increasing use of bike share and public transit, as well as increasing the adoption of EVs or electric vehicles through increasing the number of electric vehicle chargers in Newton. On the city side, a goal is around adopting a zero emissions first vehicle policy, which is already in effect somewhat due to our all-electric municipal non-emergency fleet. Our next chapter, consumption and waste disposal, focuses on ways to reduce consumption through promoting consumption reduction programs, continuing to educate residents about the link between consumption and climate change, encouraging increased composting participation, both through Black Earth and citywide drop-off programs, improving the recycling and composting collection in municipal buildings, advocating for state-level extended producer responsibility policies, which would shift the burden of end-of-life care or disposal of products back to the manufacturer rather than the municipality for products like paint and mattresses. And on the city side, establishing an environmentally preferred purchasing policy for citywide purchases. This chapter will be new within the Climate Action Plan, focused on community health and resilience, so ways that we can maintain and increase Newton's natural resources, including stormwater management, phosphorus control, implementing the tree preservation ordinance, planting more trees on city property. There are goals to increase forest health, optimize carbon sequestration, and improve biodiversity, installing and expanding green infrastructure, which our Parks and Rec and schools teams in particular are already doing an excellent job at and will continue to do so. And again, education about resilience and preparedness. Another new section of the plan is called What You Can Do, laying out some recommendations for our residents and businesses. This section goes for a couple pages following the same chapter structure as the city side of the plan. So things people can do in their homes, through transportation, consumption, resilience, and encouraging our residents to educate each other as well. So thank you all so much for listening. I've listed 2 emails there. I also have this information and the QR code on a flyer in the back where you can read the first plan. And stay tuned for public comment, which again will be available in a few weeks. But I always welcome conversations and input in the meantime if you'd like to talk to me after or send an email. So, thank you, and over to Rachel.
Thank you. If our panelists would like to come up and grab their seats. My name is Rachel Boyce. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah. Rachel Boyce, Climate Justice and Resilience Manager for the Better Future Project. So I work on CREW, Communities Responding to Extreme Weather. That's one of our programs. I'm also a co-lead on the Make Polluters Pay campaign. I believe we have maybe a municipal resolution in front of your city council coming up soon. Slip that in real neatly. So I thank you so much, Ellie, for organizing this. Thank you so much, Lily, for hosting us and asking for me to moderate the panel tonight. I really want to emphasize that while there is so much that must happen on the federal and state level to address the impacts of climate change, and obviously we're in this moment where it's the federal government is abdicating any responsibility for climate change for climate change policy, it is always essential that we have a deep and respectful collaboration between communities and municipalities to address these impacts at home. So delighted to be here to hear about Newton's updates to their climate action plan, as well as introduce these incredible change makers to the group and to hear about their work on the ground. We've already had one round of introductions. I'll do another round of introductions. First off, we have Peter Bearer with the Newton Conservators and 350 Mass Newton Node. Max Rome, the Senior Stormwater Program Manager for the Charles River Watershed Association. Kathy Pillsbury with Newton for Everyone, as well as 350 Mass. And then last but not least, Alan Gordon with Green Newton and the Sustainable Materials Management Commission. So I'm going to give each panelist a couple minutes to introduce themselves, talk about their organization, the local impacts their organization or group focuses on. And then, because oftentimes when we talk about climate, we get immersed in the doom and gloom, just share one climate joy or win that you are really excited about. So Peter, if you'd like to get started.
Sure.
Figure out
How's this working?
Great.
Great. Okay, so I'm here representing two organizations. The Board of Newton Conservators wears this hat, and 350 Newton Node wears this hat. So we'll start with this hat. I'm on the board of the Newton Conservators. We connect people to open space, and we work to preserve open space. We organize walks in parklands in Newton, and we host webinars about our local natural environment. We have a quarterly newsletter. We publish a trail guide, and a new version's coming out soon. We publish an almanac highlighting the seasonal changes in the natural environment. And we advocate for our issues in City Hall. Our climate work is important for two perspectives. And normally you don't think of what we do as having a climate impact, but it does. The main way is through promoting biodiversity. Biodiversity means removing invasives and allowing the natural, the natural plants and animals that live here to continue to live here. And it reduces atmospheric carbon because by eliminating invasive plants, we allow native plants to populate open space. And native plants support wildlife and pollinators, which enable successful food production. In forested areas, biodiversity builds understory growth, which sequesters more carbon and creates healthier soils to support tree growth for sequestering carbon. Biodiversity also helps climate resilience, which means being able to handle the effects of the changing climate. When you eliminate invasives, you have more plant growth, which captures more rainwater, which reduces runoff, and which reduces flooding when there's an extreme rainfall event. So one thing I'm particularly happy about is Webster Woods. This is not new news, but we've, with the assistance of our mayor and everybody involved, we've really preserved an enormous area for future generations. I'm very, very happy about that. But I have, for the Climate Action Plan, we have a recommendation, which is to increase in the Climate Action Plan the biodiversity work in the city. And I hope we can do that. Maybe the first step is forming a commission to do that, but we'd really like to see that happen in our work. The challenge, of course, is the city budget and other competing priorities. So in the back, there's some information on how to join us. You can sign up to be a member. You can attend walks and webinars and learn how to lead them. You can participate in invasive plant pulls and to preserve local plant life, and that's in the back. Now, the other hat, 350 Newton. I'm on the leadership team of the 350 Mass Newton Node. We are the local member of 350 Mass, which is a statewide organization, and we're loosely affiliated with the international 350.org movement. And we effectively advocate for reduction of greenhouse gases in Newton and at the statewide level. Along with the other members of the climate movement, particularly Green Newton and Mothers Out Front, we've contributed in recent years to many citywide and city-side policy improvements, and Caroline has gone through a lot of them. There's still a long way to go to get to zero greenhouse gases, and we will be playing an important part with our advocacy in the City Council and with the Mayor's office. And at the state level, our Senator Cream and our reps, Sangiolo, who I just saw sit down, there she is, Amy, and Greg Schwartz is also here. There's Greg in the back. They even introduced key legislative bills, and this is their first time on Beacon Hill. They've introduced key legislative bills. We meet with them and stay in close touch. So 2 needs for the Climate Action Plan. One is to establish city supervision of the gas company's program to invest in new expensive gas pipes in the street. If this is successful, it'll help reduce gas bills. And the challenge is the slow response we're getting from the gas utility National Grid. The second need for the climate plan is to continue to increase the city commitment to reducing carbon emissions in their buildings, and they've gone a long way, but there's still a long way to go, and also to start using electric school buses. Challenge is, again, budget and competing priorities. So how to join us? Our monthly meetings are on Zoom, and they're open to everyone, where we strategize our next steps in organizing our advocacy work. It's a great place to learn effective advocacy by participating in advocacy. So there's a place to sign up in the back, or you can contact myself or Demi. Would you wave your hand? Talk about joining our node. That's me.
Thanks, Peter. We got a chance to start with the questions. Yeah, we're going to pass it on to Max.
Hi, my name is Max Rome, and I'm here representing the Charles River Watershed Association. And a couple things I'll talk about quickly that are super Newton relevant. One thing that we do is that we maintain a regional flood model. So some of the, some towns, Boston, Cambridge, went ahead and developed their own flood model. But guess what? Flooding is a regional issue, not a local issue. So we maintain a model for all the other towns and are in the process of running different scenarios to see, okay, here's where the current hotspots are. What are the different mitigation strategies that could be employed upstream? Can we deal with flooding kind of where it's starting instead of where it's hitting? And I feel super lucky because one of the very, very fun projects that we are working on right now is a project that kind of demonstrates that process along Cheesecake Brook. So Cheesecake is a place where there's a lot of flooding now, and where there's going to be very serious flooding by the year 2070. And what can we do about that? There's basically 2 things that we can do. One, we've created a very impervious landscape in Newton, throughout the Charles River watershed. We need to figure out how to retrofit our stormwater drainage system so that the focus is not get the water off the street as fast as possible and get it into our brooks, get into the Charles River, but we need to figure out how to start finding more opportunities to soak that water into the ground whenever possible. Soaking the water into the ground, it's good for the water table. It cools the water down, so when it hits the brook, it's not 85 degrees, and it removes nutrients and pollutants from the stormwater, and that's really what it's going to take to achieve a healthy Charles River. So in Cheesecake Brook, just quickly, we're right now doing a project with the City of Newton that's about retrofitting one of those very large stormwater pipes. And instead of letting it just dump into the brook, it now goes into a 50,000 cubic foot infiltration chamber where all of that stormwater runoff is soaking into the ground and then is entering the brook over time. Another piece of this project is
Max. I believe that. So just as a quick reminder, we're running down the panel at this point. Everyone will introduce themselves, talk about their priorities for their organization, touch on one climate joy or climate win they're really excited about, and then have some other questions that I'm going to throw at the panelists, and then open it up to Q&A of the audience. So,
okay, well, I'm glad that we were able to build so much suspense for these remarks. I completely forgot what I was talking about, so I'm going to go straight to climate joy, which I actually experience a lot of climate joy. One thing working on stormwater is that we have a really, really good plan that we're actually kind of following to restore the Charles River. So in 2018, the state implemented this stormwater pollution prevention plan that requires all 35 towns in the Charles River watershed to reduce their pollution by 50% by the year 2038, and tons of interim steps. And it's really working. So that gives me a lot of faith in our ability to kind of get together, follow the science, and then make it happen. But you know, another piece for me is you know, water quality, climate resilience, biodiversity is the thing that really speaks to me most within that. And in our work on Cheesecake Brook, we've had the opportunity to go out and do some electrofishing with the Native Fish Coalition, go out and try and catch some minnows and nets. And if folks know Cheesecake Brook and can picture those masonry walls, that very shallow brook, there are some places where some grass has kind of fallen off and created these kind of ad hoc little wetland islands. And as we electrofished through those grass islands, out came a 15-inch American eel, which is just so exciting to see. You know, that's the creature that has been living in these streams since the last ice age. Every single American eel is born in the Sargasso Sea and then drifts with the current to the East Coast and then spends, you know, 10 to 20 years in creeks like Cheesecake Brook, often more scenic creeks than Cheesecake Brook. But that was such a thrill to just see that that is alive and well, and we want to strengthen that.
Hi, I'm Kathy Pillsbury. I'm here with Newton for Everyone. I'm also involved with 350. I became involved in local action here in Newton because I worked for the Union of Concerned Scientists and doing research, and I was seeing the impacts of climate change everywhere. Hotter summers, hotter falls, which we're having now, stronger storms, and flooding. Locally, I was seeing the connection between how our land is used, where we can build homes, and what kinds of homes, and climate change. Emission from cars is one of the largest sources of greenhouse gas. On the one hand, we can reduce emissions by switching to electric, but a critical step in reducing emissions is to look at a measure called vehicle miles traveled. It's a simple measure that just measures how many miles we travel to go about our daily lives. One of the best ways to cut down emissions from that is to build more homes in areas that are convenient to stores, restaurants, closer to jobs and schools, closer to friends and family. While many people think of homes and how they are built, it's also critical to think about where they are built. Currently, many people are moving out to areas that require driving to get almost anywhere because of the high cost of homes in more walkable neighborhoods. This is where Newton comes in, and it's why I work with Newton for Everyone. There are places across the city where there are currently underused parking lots, like at Riverside, or there's single-story strip malls, like in Four Corners, that instead could be a great place for homes. They'd be a lot closer to many things that we are convenient. Four Corners has restaurants, it has a grocery store, it has a pharmacy, all right there. Plus it's next to Cold Spring Park. Green Newton has done a lot of great work on how homes are built and other buildings in order to reduce energy. Affordability is usually what comes to mind for people when they think about homes. And this is one reason that Newton for Everyone advocates for more diverse types of housing here in Newton. However, we also advocate for more homes here because of the importance of where homes are built to address climate change. Newton for Everyone has been doing a series of educational events related to homes and development. And last spring, Dan Rubin, who's here tonight, led an event that looked at both the impact of climate change on homes and the impact of homes on climate change. I was just at a conference of people from across the country, about 1,000 people, who advocate for more homes. Bill McKibben was one of the keynote speakers at the event. There was also a panel on the impact of climate change on homes, and in particular, the rising cost of insurance for homes because of the damages from climate change. They noted that this rising cost of insurance is going to make it more difficult and more expensive to actually get mortgages for homes. Many places are just becoming uninsurable. I'm hoping that Newton for Everyone can produce an event locally to talk about this, because it was a lot of new information even for me. And Ellie actually noted the thing about insurance when she first talked. I think this is another way that we can reach people about climate change and already how it's affecting us, and it's going to get worse unless we take some action. Then, along with our events, Newton for Everyone has a presence at local events like Village Days, where we talk about and have materials that talk about the connection between homes and climate change. We have one of the flyers in the table in the back that makes the connections. There's also a couple of posters that kind of visualize some images. What can you do to get involved with Newton for Everyone? Well, first you could just sign up to be on our mailing list, keep in touch with what's going on. There's a mailing list sign up in the back. You could help us at events where we talk with people about the connections between climate change and the importance of where homes are. You could help us with an educational event like the one I just talked about. Or you can advocate with our city councilors to look at where in our city does it make sense to build homes as a way to address climate change. Because in the end, housing policy is climate policy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alan Gordon. I am here with two, plus Ellie asked me to mention a third hat. So I'm the president of Green Newton. I'm the chair of Newton Sustainable Materials Management Commission. And I'm also the chair of the executive committee of the Massachusetts chapter of the Sierra Club, which isn't Newton specific, does a lot of state level advocacy. I was never really good at playing musical chairs when I was a kid, so I must have been the last man standing on each of those organizations. Green Newton, let me talk a little bit about Green Newton. I'm guessing most people are familiar with Green Newton, but the first thing I want to mention, Judy reminded me, is our Environmental Leadership Celebration is this Saturday. If you don't already have tickets, please consider coming. It's going to be a great event. What Green Newton does is a lot around electrification, getting us off fossil fuels. That's kind of one of our core focus. So we do a lot to work with residents, businesses, commercial, houses of worship. We try to look at for residents, how do you install heat pumps? How do you understand the incentives? When does it make sense to do that? Should you put solar on your house? How do you use Mass Save to do energy assessments? When's the right time to buy an EV? What EVs are available? Obviously, the federal government is making some of those things a little more difficult right now, but we're still hard at work in those areas. We've worked with Alexander and some of the groups around houses of worship. There's kind of these big, old, airy buildings. How do they electrify, right? That's a big area of focus. We've looked at projects related to network geothermal. So the Countryside School, the city is installing a geothermal system, and there are technologies available. They're complicated, but to expand that out through the neighborhood. And so we've done a lot of education and a lot of efforts to work with neighbors in the area to see if they might be interested in that as an alternative energy source. We do a lot of education, so we do sustainable street tours to educate people within small neighborhoods so that they can see what their neighbors are doing, right? Convincing people to change their behavior, sometimes it's easier if they can understand what the person next door is doing and that person actually put in heat pumps and they work and they don't get cold in the winter. Or the solar panels actually generate most of the electricity they need, or their electric car doesn't run out of electricity when they go to the grocery store, or whatever it is that people may be worried about. Sometimes just talking to your neighbors really helps you get through that. I could go on and on. I could probably talk for an hour about what Green Newton does. Let me shift briefly to Sustainable Materials Management Commission. So the Sustainable Materials Management Commission is a city set of volunteers appointed by the mayor, approved by the city council, and we advise the mayor and the city council on solid waste. So mostly the things that go in your green bin, your blue bin, and hopefully your compost bin if you use black earth, all right? And we make suggestions and recommendations to the city on on those services and how to encourage people to reduce their trash volume, to recycle more, and to compost. I'll move on to what brings me joy, and I would say, actually, when Ellie asked me to serve on this panel, of course I said, of course I'll do this, no problem. But I thought even up until the moment I walked into the library that I might be talking to Peter, Max, and Kathy, and Rachel, and Caroline, and Ellie. So it brings me joy to see all of you in this room. It's like the interest in Newton, in environmental advocacy, and in making a difference. That's what brings me joy. Newton is truly a leader in this state and in this country in a lot of the things we do. Again, we could talk a lot about that and some of the things we've done as a community. People look to Newton to do these things, and it makes a difference. And if you're not involved, there are so many people in this room who are already involved. There are a lot of Green Newton board members, there's people from others out front that I see, city councilors, our state reps, et cetera. A lot of people already involved in this. If you're not already involved, lots of great organizations to get involved with. I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. Time check.
I'm thinking maybe let's plan to go with the panel Q&A until 8:15 or so, because I want to make sure people have enough time to kind of connect afterwards. The library closes at 9 and we start getting our closing announcements at 8:40.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask one of my questions, and then I'll open it up. I'll invite Caroline up, and I'll open it up to general Q&A. But the question that I'm interested in hearing the responses from our panelists on is, so today we have groups representing conservation, energy and housing justice, decarbonization, mitigation, and waste management. Climate work can all too often, and I'm sure all of us have seen this, can be broken down into our silos, pitting one issue area against another, and then it's really hard for the city of Newton or any city to create a comprehensive climate action plan to respond to all these issues. I'm curious, how does your organization or your groups, you can speak more, I know that many of you are representing many different groups, how does your organization think about relationship building across community partners and issues? And anyone can get started.
Is this on? Yes. For the 350 node, we can't succeed with the city council unless we're working with a broad spectrum. So that's very clear to the leadership team, and we do our very best to coordinate with Green Newton and Mothers Out Front in particular. But also there's there are organizations with the religious community, and we just know that we have to work across those lines to get our message into city council. So it's obvious what to do.
I mean, I would repeat what Peter said. I think it's, while the issues are siloed, they can be siloed. Housing can seem like a siloed issue, or conservation can seem like a siloed issue. But I think to me, it's a strength of Newton. I mean, I think, again, when I talked before about Newton being a leader in other communities, not so many communities have so many different organizations and so many people involved. And it enables us to do a lot. And sure, of course, we don't always agree on every last issue. I mean, that's the truth, but I think we all work together. We all know each other. We all respect each other. And we can all come to the table and have a discussion around an issue if we don't agree on it. So I guess I don't see all these different groups as a negative. I just see it as a major positive. And I think we work together. And I think we mostly like each other.
Well, so coming from the Watershed Association, I think we could do a better job sometimes working together. I'm going to give a couple examples. Hearing you speak about housing, the exact same story is true about stormwater pollution. where would you rather build housing? You know, next to the river or in a wetland in Dover or in a dense infill site in a place where, yes, people don't need to drive to work, but they also don't need to maintain all these roads to get to work. So we've done analysis in our watershed of how many new square feet of impervious area towns are adding for each new resident. And it's very, very different. You know, some rural towns are adding more like 5,000 square feet of new impervious area, whereas in Boston or Somerville, there might be no additional new impervious area. Oh, thank you so much for saying that. Impervious is just anything that the rain hits, and instead of soaking into the ground, it runs off into our storm drains, so a roof or a sidewalk or a road. In Newton, just to kind of blow your own horn, you guys have really good stormwater regulations. Any new project here has to keep 2 inches of water on site. So, you know, any new project that's being built is a net positive for stormwater, and that's really good news that people, you know, don't necessarily know about. So that's my perspective. And actually, and I'll give one other point too, which is on transportation. You know, we're doing a project along Albemarle Road, which is the roadway that surrounds Cheesecake Brook. Hey, it would be really nice if that brook had a little bit more room to be a brook. And you know what would facilitate that? A little bit less car traffic and a little bit more space for pedestrians and cyclists. So I think these are all things that just absolutely go together.
Well, I was actually just gonna, but I didn't mention like what gives me hope. And I wanted to give an example which actually relates just to what you were saying. On Beacon Street in Four Corners, there's a new building that has about 35 units. Used to be a restaurant with a huge parking lot. And the parking lot angled right down, and so all the water just ran off directly into Cold Spring Park with no filtering. But now, because of the new construction, they've had to build ways to absorb that water so that it won't go directly into Cold Spring Park anymore. So just seeing examples. The other one in Newton Highlands used to be a gas station. It's right across from the T-stop, and now it's gonna be 25 homes for people who can live, you know, walk around just because they're right there with the stores, the restaurants, the tea. And the way we connect at this point is we are getting our message out through many organizations that support our work whenever we have an event. So, and we try to make, with our events, we try to make connections between organizations and issues.
Thank you. All right, Caroline, I'll invite you to join the panel.
Thank you.
And open it up for questions.
Hi, I'm Allison Leary. I'm one of the city councilors. I'm Allison Leary, one of the city councilors, and I'm very concerned about the skyrocketing cost of electricity. And I recently had a family member through the Mass Save program who was eligible for heat pumps and the removal of her oil tank and furnace and mini splits, all at no cost to her. She declined it because she was concerned about her electricity bill going up too high. And although that might be a little bit of an extreme example, I'm still working on her. But the fact is her electricity bill would go up higher, and no one can really predict, it's hard to predict all those costs with oil. She heats with oil. She also has a gas stove. But, so I'm just wondering, are you hearing this? I'm concerned that it's gonna reduce our gains that we desperately need to do to meet our climate goals.
So, just to reiterate, this is a question about you deciding not to pursue Mass Save benefits because it might necessarily mean that your energy bills are going to increase regardless.
I should have said it shorter.
The history is the gas, the electric bills are going up, there's no question about it. And the governor has introduced legislation to help bring them down.
There's pipeline, right?
What's that?
She's considering a new gas pipeline.
She is. I'm not promoting the governor. I just want to say there's a bill on Beacon Hill to try to reduce electric costs. There is a new program that reduces your heating cost if you take on a heat pump. And all of the electric costs, or all electric customers are supposed to be eligible for this program. I tried to sign up for it myself, and Eversource hadn't set it up yet, so I couldn't do it yet. But that, she should take that into account because it's supposed to reduce. Now, the main comparison is how to compare that to the cost of oil. And that's analysis I can't do in my head. But there has been an effort to reduce the costs of heating with electricity. And we're supposed to see it this winter.
Does anyone else have a response to that?
It's a good question, and my response is basically there are people that have analyzed this that aren't me, and there's a lot of data on this that we could provide to you at a later date. But it's a fair question. I mean, electricity prices are likely to go up. I think one of the issues is, the gas companies are putting in new gas lines, and those costs are spread out amongst anyone who's a gas customer, rather than replacing them with electric. They're spreading those costs and those assets that are going to be 100-year assets for new gas pipes that we're going to be paying for 100 years, even though we all want to be off gas long before 100 years. So there are things that the utilities do. The utilities are, the way the programs work for the utilities encourages them to invest in gas rather than in electric right now. So there's a lot of change that needs to happen, and it's happening, but slowly. So it's probably a lot of more detail that we could provide. Did you want to add something?
I'll just add, I was also going to flag the heat pump rate as an option that I'd be happy to share more information on starting November 1st, where heat pump owners will be able to sign up for a discount on their electricity bill. And that I completely hear the concerns. They're so valid. If there's anything I can do to help, would be happy to have the conversation. And add that rising electricity costs are a concern of city administration, and of course, myself personally. We're looking at ways to explore addressing it through the next contract with Newton Power Choice too. So stay tuned on that front as well.
And one more thing that I didn't mention before, but Green Newton through Mass Save has applied for and received a grant, part of the Community First Partnership. And we have Armella here who works for Green Newton, and the focus is to reach out to low and middle income households, residents, and renters to help them learn what incentives exist for them to electrify. That's a 3-year grant that we have, and it's another area that Green Newton is working in. So that you could also, Armella may have more information. I don't want to put you on the spot, but to answer your question offline.
Thank you.
I have a quick silo question. I noticed that Caroline's last slide, the last bullet was education. And I wonder how Newton does planning for the school district environmentally, and whether that gets into the city plan or if the school district does that separately.
Yeah, absolutely. So there will be goals in the plan focused around Newton Public Schools in particular. Some of the things that I heard Louis mention, such as electric school buses and ways to explore pursuing that. I'll say that the city and schools work closely together for example, the school sustainability working groups monthly, as well as just constant communication and collaboration among sustainability staff and others, including the green team captains and students, collaboration through days such as both high schools' Earth Days, but much progress to be done in terms of education on both the city and the school sides, as well as collaboration. I'll also say I think there might be efforts within the public schools to do their own sort of climate planning in addition to with the city, so much to be explored there. Good question.
Thank you. Other question?
Well, I would certainly share the optimism regarding housing in Newton, because I see the expansion, what goes on, the knockdowns here. I've had my own experience in the back of me where there was a small house that would have been great for a couple, a family, affordable, and I was voted down by the city of Newton 5-0 when I said, let's see if we can preserve this. Let's see if a young couple can move in here. And now I see around wherever we go, just more energy, more costs, more electricity, more extensive building that's going on. So I don't share any of this optimism with the city, with the government, and the way things are going with the city of Newton.
Sir, do you have a question?
I mean,
Do you have a question?
I could.
no, just a
I could
comment.
respond.
You forgot.
Yeah, I think Kathy, if you would like to respond to that.
Since it's about housing, I'll just respond to it. I mean, I think there's some changes that the city council could do that might help things like that, which are, in some ways, they're trying to do. We could make it easier to adapt homes into a multifamily so that maybe you build a small addition on and you make it a two-family, and instead of having to tear down, which obviously is bad for the environment, all those materials. But in terms of new housing in Newton, the bigger area that can help is in the multifamily and in places that are convenient to schools, restaurants, stores, and not the McMansions that are getting built.
I want to second what you're doing, what you're talking about. On my street, Attlestane Road, I would, every year, a house, two-family house is being torn down, affordable house is being torn down, and it's replaced by huge box. That's also two-family.
I think if you give a question for the panel, because
I just want to add to what the gentleman was saying.
No, I understand that, but I think it's
No, okay, I have a question. So, on the next street, there is a man who wants to restore a house, and he's got a lot of problems with the city. For some reason, when they tear down the house, and the city approves, and the trees are going down, and when they want to restore a house that's already there, then there are problems, multiple problems.
You should talk to your city councilor. There's several here. We'll be happy to
Yeah,
talk.
I did.
no, and I appreciate the comments. It's more of the like we're already running behind on time, and there's going to be a substantial amount of time with the elected officials in the room to direct these comments. I think at the people that have power to address these issues. So I think we're a little over time when I wrap up. But thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you very much for Caroline presenting the national program. I'll pass it back over to Lily.
All right, just a final thank you to all of our speakers today. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to Ellie. And we'll have about 20 minutes if you want to spend time talking to the panelists, talking to anyone.